I believe he was shocked by the moment that the police broke his door down, had guns in his face. He was unaware that that was going to happen, and really shocked by the arrest. He wasn't expecting it, obviously.
Hello and welcome to True Crime Rocket Science, the most authentic voice in true crime. So the search warrant executed on January 3rd on Kohberger's apartment in Pullman, Washington, just 4 days after his arrest in faraway Pennsylvania, that has just been released. I have to say, I hadn't really considered how the inside of his apartment is or could be a crime scene, or certainly a potential reservoir of fragments from the crime scene. Now, the clip that I played you at the beginning is actually quite relevant and quite important, because if he was lulled into a false sense of security, if he had a sense that the cops had no clues, had no idea who committed the crime, then he would not have taken measures to get rid of absolutely everything in his apartment. And isn't that exactly what happened? If so, well played, law enforcement. And so what are some of the potential evidence artifacts investigators may have recovered? What might actually link his apartment and thus Kohberger back to the scene? And you had a similar situation in the Amanda Knox case, where Meredith Kutch had never been to Amanda's boyfriend's apartment. And so the question was, if any of her DNA, Meredith Kutch's DNA, was found at Celestito's apartment, well, then that would be a very problematic. And so you have the same situation here, especially in terms of hairs. And so what we're going to do now is go through the 15 separate evidence items one by one. But before we get to that, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do. By the way, it's my birthday, and I'm sitting at 34 minutes past 1 in the morning into my birthday. I sort of woke up. I was sleeping, woke up to deal with this. So I hope you appreciate the analysis here. If you do, please like, share, leave a comment. You can also hit the thanks button, and let's get started. Okay, so number one, did Kohberger commit the crime? That's if he committed the crime wearing gloves. Well, if so, did he, like OJ, possibly lose or drop a glove, or only dispose of one? Now, if you think about the knife sheath, if that was something that he lost along the way, could he have lost a glove as well? Could that have been torn off during a struggle? And bear in mind, there are 4 separate struggles. In the Chris Watts case, a blue nitrile glove was also found and seized from the scene. These gloves were quite popular during the pandemic. Number 2, one Walmart receipt. Well, did that receipt show items such as nitrile gloves bought perhaps hours prior to the murders? If so, the actual receipt was found in his apartment, right? If it was, then that's doofus move number whatever, 72. Not exactly the stuff of a criminal mastermind. Number 3, Marshall's receipts. That's plural. This might include items such as cleaning agents, which he may have used on his vehicle, and clothing, right? Blood is actually very difficult to get out of certain material, especially if it's been in a lot of it and in it for a while. Also rags and or garbage bags, cloths and that sort of thing. He might have bought that at Marshall's. In the Frazee case, there was also a massive post-crime cleanup operation because there was so much blood. I think it actually filled up something like 5 or 6 garbage bags. In this case, you could easily imagine it would be 1 or 2. Number 4, if Kohberger did, and you also have garbage bags in the Chris Watts case. Number 4, if Kohberger did clean up after himself, as he did helpfully collecting and taking out the trash for waiting agents in the Poconos when he was back in Pennsylvania, then the dust bag from his vacuum cleaner might contain transferred DNA, touch DNA, skin or nail fragments, perhaps even nail polish on those nail fragments, clothing or blanket fibers, etc. And if he'd vacuumed, well, he would have actually gathered all of that into one place. More than likely, the agents may have also vacuumed as well. Number 5, 8 strands that could be hair, and it could be hair from the last victim, possibly also the second last victim, and perhaps even all 4 victims. Even if, and let's just say this. If there's hair from all 4 victims, well, then that is really, I think, kind of going into slam dunk territory. Even the hair from one victim, if the hair from one victim is found in his apartment, it's hard to say that his goose wouldn't be cooked. Unless he can prove any of the victims came to see him there, which is more than a little far-fetched because we know that he didn't really seem to have any friends, didn't really seem to have any visitors, let alone from Moscow. Number 6, the Fire TV stick, and interestingly, the Watts murders were also immediately preceded with a fire stick being picked up as well at a grocery store. And that might, I think it was actually a Walmart as well, that might contain a list of Kohberger's favorite true crime fodder. Is Dahmer on there? What about the Bundy tapes? Number 7, if that single animal hair is a dog hair and a match to Murphy, then even if all the other hairs are inconclusive, Kohberger's goose may be well and truly cooked just in that instance. Because it's one thing to explain how someone's hair might have made its way into his apartment, for example, in a classroom encounter. It's a completely different kettle of fish to explain a dog hair that's pretty idiosyncratic, especially specific to one particular breed. And I mean, Murphy was a very unusual dog as well. So could it be some other animal besides a dog? We know that beaver hair was a possible artifact in the John Benet Ramsey case, and I think it was actually found behind the duct tape. In the Delphi case, animal hair also proved to be an important evidence item. In that case, cat hair. And then 8 to 11, all of those items all involve either hairs or possible hairs. In both the Casey Anthony case and the Scott Peterson case, hairs were found that the prosecution actually had a little difficulty connecting absolutely to the victims. In the Casey Anthony case, a possible hair was found in the trunk, and in the Peterson case, a single hair was found wedged inside a pair of yellow needle-nosed pliers in Peterson's boat. It's virtually the only evidence, possibly of Lacey, that was ever found prior to her remains washing up in San Francisco Bay. In the Watts case, there were also reports of a large amount of hair fragments found in his truck. Number 12, the computer tower could show a lot about the inner workings of our suspect, in the same way that an algorithm can basically give you an idea of who someone is. That browser history can too. And if he's as arrogant as we suspect he is, as I say, we heard that he was really shocked, really surprised when he was arrested. He wasn't aware that anything was going to happen. Well, then he may have clumsily left behind evidence on his computer as well, including his browsing, even if it was just browsing on the news and social media. Now, imagine if its subjects perhaps virtually exclusively related to the murders in Moscow. We may also find out which forums he participated in and if he had much of an appetite for porn, and if so, what type. In the Casey Anthony case, browser history from the family PC included search terms such as foolproof suffocation and how to make chloroform. In the Scott Peterson case, his browser history showed interesting activity related to pawning Lacey's expensive, recently inherited jewelry. There might also be something in that browser history that relates to an interest in drugs or some kind of pharmaceutical aspect. Anyway, we'll see. Number 13, a liquid fragment identified as dark red. Could be blood, it could be ketchup, could be some other substance such as ink from a red pen or magic marker or some other food that is sort of red in color. Presumably this was discovered in carpet fibers, could also be some kind of source. Perhaps even in a substrate of a closet or wherever it was that he kept his Vans footwear or socks. That's assuming he had a pair. It's also possible that a fragment like that could be left or transferred to a cloth or absorbent material, perhaps a mat, located near a washing machine or dryer. I wonder whether they checked his trash as well. Number 14. Item 14 is quite interesting and quite specific. It seems to refer to a pillowcase that was found outside or off a pillow that had a stain on it. Now, it's possible a pillowcase was used to mop up, as occurred in the Chris Watts case, or possibly there was a stain in his hair that transferred to the pillowcase, and then that was then removed. Now, interestingly, the largest stain that was collected was actually tested, and so collecting that evidence appears not to be without, shall we say, probable cause. Number 15. What would one of the first priorities, the almost immediate destination, be for the killer after a nighttime sortie? Bear in mind he's been out all night and he comes home quite late at 5 o'clock in the morning. So what would be one of his sort of first priorities? Well, to go to bed. His destination would be a mattress. And that would present a prime collecting ground. A bed and mattress is essentially a sponge that soaks up liquid evidence in particular, but also fibers, hairs, etc. In the John Benet Ramsey case and the Gannon Store case, bed fibers and mattresses also played an important role in terms of the forensic evidence. So this is quite a wide variety of evidence given the category of potential criminal we may be dealing with. You know, the old doctorate in criminology. It's quite a lot that they seem to have recovered. A glove, multiple hairs, multiple red stains, multiple receipts, and who knows what is lurking on the drives of that computer tower. Time will tell. Now, on the flip side, we can imagine Kohberger himself will be poring over exactly the same warrant we're looking at. What do you think he's thinking about that? I mean, if he's innocent or if he's guilty, he may know whether the cops and the prosecution are on a wild goose chase or whether or not his goose is indeed cooked. Which one do you think it is? How do you think he is feeling? If he feels like it is, and we saw an about turn in his mood and attitude following bad Teachergate, when he was confronted with certain things that he didn't expect there either, right? His attitude changed suddenly. Who knows, he may have a change of heart regarding his own prospects at trial with this in mind as well. So I'm not going to take it further than that. I do want to do a live, maybe later today, maybe tomorrow, but look out for that, dealing with a few reasons why Kohberger is a suspect in this case, and then also a few reasons why a conviction isn't given. And we'll see how those reasons match up against one another. In other words, how strong is the case against Kohberger? What do you think the answer is? Thank you for listening, and I'll see you guys next time.